somewhere there's at least 2 cats, but one of them is Pansy, so she won't come very long. But one of them is Poppy, and he's the guy that needs to have these long walks to lose weight. So yeah, I'm just back from another trip, and I gotta say, I think it was one of those to think that I resisted type trips. I really did not want to go to New York. But I had an open little gap where I could take a small trip. And they really were asking for tourists, and it was really good. It was better than I expected, to say the least. I mean, I thought, it's going to be terrible, it's going to be 100 degrees. Yes, it was 100 degrees, it was terrible. The subways are going to be awful. The subways were not as crowded as they have been in the past for me. You know, maybe this pandemic and everybody's out of work and doing the work from home thing, maybe that actually did help the city. I mean, it was visibly less busy than I've seen it in the past, which is good because, you know, the last time I went to New York before, I mean, it was like wall to wall. It was like, you know, all the old pictures of Disney World. And it wasn't like that at all this time around, so that helped a lot. But the reason I'm making the video is there was a comment asking that if all this traveling is so good for me, and going to a new place is so good for me, that wouldn't it be better if I moved, and if I continuously moved every so often to a new place, rather than staying in one spot. And there was also an assumption that, you know, I got a lot of bad memories around here, and etc. You know, why am I staying in the place that's ground zero for all the negativity that's happened? Okay, first of all, where I'm staying is not ground zero for all the negativity. And I do get kind of creeped out whenever I go into my old hometown, the place where I actually grew up. You know, I drive through it every once in a while. It's relatively close. Less now, because my father, when he was trying to make decisions, he kept wanting to stay in that one area. So he was actually either in the town, or he would stay in one town next to it. Alright, where's the cats? I don't know. I'm getting on the street. I don't see them in the street, so that's cool. So the past, like, couple, maybe 3 years, he didn't have the choice anymore to decide where he wanted to be. And, you know, he was basically stuck with elderly housing, and truly dependent. Like, he didn't drive. I mean, he hasn't driven actually for a while. But I don't even know how he did it. What is that? I think it's a frog. Whatever. It's something. That he would have people do all his shopping for him and everything else, and I wasn't the only one. He was more dependent on me to do sort of one-off longer trips. So if it was like a half an hour from where he lived, he would have me give him those rides. But for like grocery shopping and things. I don't know who he got to do it for him, but he was getting people to do it for him. I don't know. He had a way about him, that's for sure. Same with my mother. My mother was a royal pain in the neck, actually, because I would take her shopping or take her to get her hair cut or something, and she'd be like, "Ooh, I'm out," which I understand that. Yeah, I'm out. And she would go to like every little store and everything. I was like, "Come on, I got things, we gotta go. There's only so much time I can spend here." And she would just like disappear and expect me to wait for her and track her down. And if she didn't answer the phone, she figured that I would just have to wait for her. Oh, she's a pain in the neck. Anyway, but all that stuff did not happen where I actually live. Now, where I live now, yes, my son lived with me. And truthfully, like, his room is cleared out, but I don't go in his room. I basically use it as storage. And I don't hang out in there. Even though, it's a room in my house, I could use it if I wanted to. It's actually a pretty convenient space, but I just avoid that entire half of the house. I mean, whatever. I don't need the space. And I still have stuff from all three of them that, like now that my father has died, I can actually get rid of his furniture that I was holding, in case he was in a place where he could use it again. Well, no, he can't use it again, and I checked with everybody, nobody wants it, so I can get rid of it now. Anyway, back to answering these questions. So yeah, that's number one, is that where I actually live now is not, like, triggering. Like, my father never came to this house where I'm at. He didn't even know where I lived. My mother, once in a blue moon, but for the most part, she didn't drive either. They weren't there, so they didn't sort of, like, impress on me sort of bad things and bad vibes. Although getting rid of their stuff should definitely be a priority, and I have been working on it like all year, because it is a matter of culling. I might want 10 or 20% of what is there, and it is really draining on me to go through and deal with this stuff. But I have been, and I will continue to. And give me another year or two, and it might be all cleared out. So yeah. But as far as moving as opposed to just traveling, no, that wouldn't work. One of the lowest, harshest periods of my life was when I moved to Philadelphia. I went there for school, I went there for college, but I left early. I had a couple of really very arbitrary reasons to leave early. One, my car inspection was due, and it would have taken a ton of work, and I didn't want to waste some money, and I definitely needed a car in Maine. I didn't need one in Philadelphia. And two, and this is even more vile, but hey, this is avoidance for you. I met a person who intrigued me, who was not single, but I was pretty cocky back then. And I was probably right, that in the very least I could have started something. And I didn't. On purpose, I was like, if there's a major connection happening here, I might be tempted not to go to graduate school and to stay around and have this relationship. And I mean, I was getting to that point. I was like doing the push through the avoidance thing. I knew something was coming. And I was right, because it was just a few months after I was in Philadelphia that I met my ex-fiance. I knew it was coming, and it just wouldn't have been it wouldn't have been bad. It would have been a bad scene, and I knew it, and I ran. I was like, I'm not dealing with this. I am not dealing with, me who never has relationships, starting something and then having to move, 6 weeks down the road. No. So I left early, and I was in Philadelphia in high summer. I moved there on July 1st. I didn't have an air conditioner. It was 1,000,000,000 degrees. I didn't have a job. I didn't have access to the school because I was not technically a student yet. I wasn't a student until that September. Well, end of August, whatever. But because of that, I couldn't do anything on the school. I knew nobody in the city. I was completely alone with nothing to do but to sit and bake. And it was horrible. It was a true nightmare. I've done that, and I don't want to do that again. To say the least, I don't want to do that again. The actual process of moving, for me, the reason why it wouldn't work, the reason why it's so different is when I do these little trips to some place where I was like a chatty Cathy. I probably had more conversations with people, like, not, hi, how are you, done conversation, but like stupid conversations. Like, there was one guy that I just sat there and talked to for like 40 minutes about The Walking Dead and M. Night Shyamalan. Now, I couldn't tell you what I was actually talking about, because you know what? I saw like the first year of The Walking Dead. I had no idea what this guy was talking about. He was going off about like what's been going on the show. I have no idea. Shyamalan, I've seen like 2 or 3 of his movies. I have no idea. I was just like talking. It was so stupid. This is not the type of thing that I could do in a normal situation. Why? I know for a fact I will never run into this person again. 100%. There is no way that I will ever run into this person again. And that's why I could have a stupid conversation about something that I actually had no idea what I was talking about. That it was been so easy for me to say something wrong and been caught out as a complete, poser, which is what I was. Why I got involved in this conversation, I have no idea. How I got suckered into it, I have no idea. The guy was just wanting to talk to anybody, and, it was clearly his, like, little pet topic that he liked to talk about. And I just was like a sounding board that didn't really matter. He could have been talking to a mirror, and he probably would have actually had more good time than talking to me. But that's the type of thing. Then another place, I had 2 people come over, and they said point blank, "We are from Mexico, and we need to practice English." And I was like, okay, let's talk. Would I do that in real life? Clearly I have a teaching heart, so I'm cool with this sort of thing. But any other time in my life, would I do that? No. If I moved to a new city, no. Hard no. No way. Yes, I'll have this conversation and sort of talk to these people for a couple of minutes, because it wouldn't matter. I'm not going to have them say, "Hey, can I have your phone number? Can we maybe meet up here again? Can we repeat this insanity of a no way to actually talk about anything because there was a literal communication block where I speak no Spanish at all, and they were trying to learn how to speak English. I mean, which is awesome and fine. But do you see what I mean? I would definitely not ever want to get stuck in either of those situations ever again. Do I want to be the one that somebody calls and says, hey, let's practice English over and over and over again? No fucking way in hell. Do I want to get caught talking some stupid, film theory of stuff that I don't have any idea what the conversation's about with some guy where I'm definitely going to be, didn't catch on the first time because the guy wanted to monologue and I wasn't talking so much. Do I want to get stuck having these conversations again? Ever? No. But, even if he was like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about, and just turned and walked away, I mean, I probably would have felt bad for like a couple minutes, I'm not going to lie, for getting caught out. But whatever. Let him go talk to somebody else. There was no continuous relationship type thing. There was no way it was going to continue. If he judged me, whatever, he can tell everybody, oh my God, I just had like the worst conversation, this idiot I was talking to. They thought they knew what they were talking about, and I don't think they ever saw anything. Actually, real life. Details that I really don't want to talk about, but I'm going to anyway. That sort of thing happened. My son's father is a bassist, played bass guitar. He's since stopped. Well, I mean, for the most part, he's since stopped. He's pretty good at it. And he was obsessed with Red Hot Chili Peppers. That's actually how I met him. It was after one of their shows. I went to see one of their shows, and then I met my son's father. And at one point, we were talking on the phone. He's like, I can play anything. Start naming me songs, and I'll play it. And the thing was, he can say he can play anything, except he actually couldn't play everything. And I kept saying things that he didn't like, excuse me. I named something from a record that he was like, no, I refused to have anything to do with that record. It wasn't a legit record because they had this guitarist that I didn't think shouldn't have ever been part of this band. So as far as I'm concerned, that record didn't exist. So I don't know any of those songs. I was like, okay. Name another one. Oh, nope, I don't know that one either. Another one. Give me another name. And I'm sitting there. At this point, I'm blanking because I'd already, failed on my, my request. And I was like, oh my, and said point blank, I don't think you're actually a fan. I don't think you actually know any of their work. And I'm sitting there going, blanking and shut up, and I can't force myself to speak because I'm being judged by somebody. And I mean, this was before it got sort of heavy. But I'm sitting there going, I can't get through this. This is supposed to be the point of context of why we have any sort of interaction whatsoever. This was the point that we met up on, and then anything else that happened was sort of like, it was like the pivot point of what we had to talk to each other about, what we had anything to do with each other about. I mean, it wasn't the only thing, but it was like the starting point. And it was like, I'm being judged on it. I'm being judged as a failure on it. I'm being, it really shook me. If you ask how I get past it, again, at that point, there was nothing going on. I was like, I am being judged. I am going to disappear, and it won't matter because there's no relationship there. At that point, there hadn't been. It was pretty early. But then he was like, he just said that as a throw-off thing. I'm sure he would never remember it. He didn't remember it, or else he would have said I'm a poser and wouldn't have anything to do with me. And this actually would have been important to him because, again, he's a musician. Or was at the time. So, yeah. that's a problem for me. If I'm, basically being judged like that. Like, that I'm being disingenuous in how I'm coming across, that sort of thing. That's a gigantic problem. If I think I'm going to have some sort of ongoing relationship with somebody. Like I said, I can this sounds weird for avoidant people. This sounds weird. This is why I've got avoidant personality disorder. I do not have social anxiety disorder, generally. I don't like talking to groups. I'm much better talking in small groups or one-on-one than I am in a large group. That's it as far as the social anxiety disorder goes. I can speak to people. I can talk about things. It's when I think that there's sort of skin in the game, when there's some sort of ongoing interaction, that is a problem. Now, here's the thing. If I move, then I don't know who I'm going to be interacting with on a long-term basis. I basically can't say anything to anybody because they might be somebody that I have to interact with, and then they will judge me. So, as opposed to, hey, I just met a random person that chances are very, very excellent that I'll never talk to them again, in which case, then I can talk about just about anything and be lame, and if the conversation starts to be weird, I can just move along and think nothing of it. And I usually don't say goodbye to people either, which maybe offends them, but whatever, I don't care. I usually don't say hi, and I usually don't say goodbye. I just float in and float out. But I don't make it a formal thing. See, if you don't say goodbye, you won't have somebody saying, hey, give me your number. Let's, when I went to Philadelphia, I flew in next to this woman who was nervous, so I was talking to her, which being on a plane is a problem. You usually don't talk, but again, it was supposed to be short flights or whatever. And as she got off, she's like, yeah, I need your number. And I couldn't say no because I had been talking to this person. And then she started texting me afterward. I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, almighty, oh my God. It was the worst case scenario. Talking about some dumb, stupid thing to somebody that I didn't really want to interact with. And she was like, ooh, my new best friend. That is the problem. That is something that could happen. But again, because I didn't know her, I just sort of let it go. And ignored her, and eventually she got the idea, and after 6 texts, she let me alone. Phew, right? That is the problem. You start to talk to somebody, and whatever dumb thing you talk about, that's the start, that's the pivot, that's what you then have as the linchpin for the rest of your life with this person. Oh my God, what happens if I change? I change all the time. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. You talk to me when I'm on one of my trips, and again, I'm pretty chatty, but I'm talking about stuff that's not my real self, not my real life, because I'm doing something so radically different from my real life. I'm doing a trip. So that's why it works. That's how I can talk on my trips. But again, if I move, then I can't talk to anybody because they might be somebody that I've got a continuing relationship with. And I might say something stupid. I might have this linchpin starting of something that, who knows, Hey, Pop. My flashlight's not working. Come on, Poppy. So, I mean, yes, I am overthinking this. I am an avoidant person. There it is. I can't tolerate being judged. I can't, so if somehow I pass the initial, superficial level thing, but then, okay, so I passed, so then whatever that superficial level of what I am then, they're going to expect me to be that way. Now, in case you think I'm insane, I know somebody who is an avoidant, who literally, I'm just like, see, at least I can see this, who literally is like, okay, I met somebody, and when we started talking to each other, this person was like happy and bubbly and interesting and everything else, and since then changed and became either more sad and depressed or a little bit clingy or something, but they changed, and it's my fault. And I did this to them. I changed them, and I'm just going to sit back, even though it's really irritating to me, even though it's really like toxic, this way this relationship has gone. I'm going to hang out with them because eventually their true self is going to come back. It's going to be the person that I first met. Now, of course, that's wrong. It's the opposite. The one they met was their loquacious self, and then they calmed down and became who they really are. And it's like, nope, they're never going to change back. It was not your fault. There is nothing you can do to change, to act in a different way that's going to bring back the way they were when you first met them. Because that's not who they really were. They just finally got comfortable enough for their real true selves to come up. And I can see that with them. And that's what's going on. And it's like, it's such a bummer. What cat? He just flopped down. You're so tired, huh? You didn't even walk the whole way, Pops. Anyway, so I can see with other people that, yes, truly, people, maybe not to that extreme, but they remember the type of person you were when you first met them. And that's who they liked, and that's what they want. And if that's not who you are, if you can't keep that level of energy up, if whatever you were talking about was really interesting to you for that, day, and then it wasn't anymore, that's a problem. They want you to be the person they met and not, have that be some fake thing. So, this is the problem. This is why. So that's all avoidant talking to me about. Yeah, I can speak. That's all avoidant personality disorder thought process and stuff that I'm talking about right now, right? So it's not like real, and the judgment is nowhere near as harsh as I would imagine. And if somebody is disappointed because you're not exactly who you were when they first met you, then they'll get over it in about 3 seconds, or else they'll decide they don't like you as much, and that's cool, and they'll move on. But they're not going to do like what this other person I know does, because he has avoidant personality disorder, and hang on and hang on and hang on, blame himself for the change, and try again and again and again to act in a way that does not cause the person to lose whatever spark that they had, even though he just doesn't get it, that it's not about him. It's them becoming comfortable enough to not hide behind the social mask that they put out when they first meet people. But, again, when you have avoidant personality disorder, you don't meet that many people, so you're not aware of that. So, I'm talking all around. Oh, there's Percy. I didn't even know he was with us. So, Poppy's over there. Percy's over there. Pansy is, I'm sure, sitting at the front of the house waiting for us to get back. Perry is around somewhere. I saw him. Maybe he's still in the house. I don't know. Cat update. So, yeah, no. Moving would not be a help. I've actually thought about it. I'm like, there's these people who basically live out of a van or an RV or something like that, and they go from place to place to place. First of all, I would not have the money for that. No way. No. I mean, some people think it's actually cheaper than, but I don't think so. And I just need a safe place to crash. That's also, I think, super common with people with avoidant personality disorder. They have like a cave or, I don't know, some place that's like truly off limits to everybody else, and they can just like recharge there and truly not have to worry about like somebody knocking on the door or anything like that. And yeah, you can really relax. I really don't think I could do that any other place. I mean, if I moved once, then eventually I would be able to be, feel safe like that. But it's not something that I could, like, travel along with. I don't know if this is making any sense. But anyway, in a nutshell, no. No, the reason I'm going is because I have no relationships. If I moved to a new place, I would have to make new relationships constantly. Hey, Purse, how about you don't get hit by a car? So that's the answer to the question that I have now completely talked for, at least half an hour, yapping about. So I hope it makes a certain amount of sense. I have thought of it. When my son graduated from high school, I truly, well, you know what I thought I was going to do. One way or the other, I thought I was moving on. I had my really bad plans, and I was like, well, maybe I'll just like move away from all this, move away from my mother and my father, let somebody else deal with them, and move away from my son, let somebody else deal with them. Didn't have to do that because my parents both died, which it makes me evil to say this was like a stroke of luck, but it really was. I mean, it really was. And then my son has done much better than, I mean, he had a really bad time for a little bit, but he is doing much, much better than anyone thought that he would do. All his therapists were like, you need to prep the idea that when he's not living with you, he's going to be in a group home or something like that. No, he's in an apartment by himself. He's doing great. He's not perfect. And he's lonely, and he wants to, like, date people, which is like, okay, cool, go ahead and do it. But, I mean, he's living his life, and it's just starting, and he's got years and years and years to sort of figure out what to do next. But, he lives by himself, and he's 19. What percentage of kids, when they're 19, are living in an apartment by themselves, completely taking care of themselves and supporting themselves? Forget about the autism and all the rest of his diagnoses. I mean, the kid is on the ball. So, I didn't expect that. So I thought I really did think I was going to move, but now I'm like, why would I do that? It's 45 minutes from leaving my house to sitting at the gate in the airport to fly to the next place. Dude, stay here, have this be my home base, and leave as often as I can, which is like every 2 months. I mean, I've already got my next trip planned. It's for October. So I think 56 days until my next trip already, and it's already all paid for, and it's all set. So, dude, why would I move? I can definitely support myself here due to the way that I've structured my finances because of having to take care of my son and have all the time to take care of my son. I kind of wish I didn't work quite as much, but then if I didn't work as much, I wouldn't be able to travel as much. So what the heck? If it really gets to me, I will quit like everybody else at my job. I don't know. Again, I'm in a hugely better headspace than I was 3 days ago, just because I took this trip. And now I can be home, and I can be calm, and I can look forward to the next one, and that's what I'm going to do. So I've been talking forever. I bet this is going to cut off by YouTube. So, bye.